Hi everyone, it's Dom from theMSguide. We've got a completely new topic today, and I'm really happy to welcome my friend Rachel to talk about it. Before we kick off though, the usual stuff, the like, the subscribe, the ring the bell, all those good things. I run this channel on my own, so if you use the buy me a coffee link and just chuck some of your spare change my way, I'll be super grateful. Anyhow, on with the interview. That'll start now. Hey Rachel, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Tom. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Can you tell us, just fill people in your MS, what's happened, because it's so different for everybody.
Yeah, so my name's Rachel. I was diagnosed with MS in 2018, so 3 years ago, when my youngest was 4 months old. I was diagnosed really quickly after some surprising symptoms came through. Thought I'd slipped a disc in my neck. A couple of MRIs later, and a bout of optic neuritis meant that I was quickly diagnosed with MS. I'm under the team at Charing Cross, and I had alemtuzumab within about 2 months of being diagnosed. So I had
You got
alemtuzumab.
Lemtrada 2 months after being diagnosed.
Yeah. So I have a family history of MS and it's pretty aggressive. So I was really lucky that my neurologist also looks after my family member. And he was pretty keen to be pretty aggressive with my treatment plan. So Lemtrada in September of 2018. I was on maternity leave. February 2019, I returned to work and had to use a walking stick. So I was outed pretty quickly in my MS journey as I returned from maternity leave with a walking stick. I had 2 relapses in between doses of Lemtrada, had my second dose October 2019. In 2020, I had 3 relapses. I had another bout of optic neuritis. I lost my voice and I had symptoms in my legs. And in 2021, I've had 2 relapses this year, and they have hit cognitively and they've hit my legs. So it's been a bit of a rough ride.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, without being too doom and gloom, it sounds like you've got the full works of MS.
I have. I keep hearing about all these people whose friends and aunties and cousins' second wives have MS and how they just skip along and everything is lovely. And I seem to be caught in the waves a little bit. But, it's just the journey that you're on. And I've been really lucky with my treatment options.
I always feel fraudulent when I talk to someone like you because I've done 28 years and I'm relatively lucky. And I just think it's more luck than judgment. Like you say, I'm at the mercy of something else. And if you're breaking through with MS activity and you're on Lemtrada, you got it good. So it's I feel like I'm laughing. I'm not, you know what I mean? But anyhow, we're here to talk about pain because you also talked about your family member, and I know they've had issues with pain and stuff. And I just wanted to kick it off because I think some people that there's certainly confusion. I haven't had a great deal of pain. I've had a little bit, but there's really 2 kinds of pain. I broke my leg really badly. I'm bolted together on this sort of bionic leg, but that hurt. That hurt a lot. I got morphine, but that's what I would call a real pain. But it kind of means that I think MS pain is not real. It is, but it's different. So all those things that are giving the messages going, your leg's broken, this is bloody uncomfortable. All that happens in MS without actually breaking your leg or cutting your hand or whatever. But you were telling me a story, Rachel, about something you had to do with knives.
Yeah, so we were chatting about Christmas time. It was my first Christmas with MS, and my husband had been given a beautiful set of global knives, and I was being very careful and washing the dishes, and I was like, oh no, I've cut my hand. And I pulled my hand out of the sink, and there was no blood. And I was like, what is it so bad that there's no blood yet? What's going on? But it was the start of an MS relapse, and it felt like for 3 days to a week, like my hand was covered in paper cuts. And it was one of those things where you kept looking at it and your brain was like, your hand is cut, you need to go and get treatment. And you'd look down and there's nothing wrong with it. And as you say, that's not a real pain. And so there's no pain medication that you can take. You just have to try and, using mindfulness to block it out and not think about it.
I think that's a really important point. You can swallow all the ibuprofen, paracetamol, heavier stuff, and it will do nothing. Whereas when I broke my leg, they gave me morphine, and wowee, that's good stuff. Pharmaceutical grade heroin. But I could have that if I had pain. I mean, one of my friends recently, Marika, who's been in some of the videos, was talking. She was just on her sofa, not being able to move, with pain in her ear. And I also get that sometimes, not as bad as her, but it feels like somebody's driving a sharpened pencil into my ear. I can't even lie with my head on that side on the pillow. It's the inability to treat this pain in the way that we all think, well, you just treat pain. If it's not working, take a stronger drug.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard. So I get feelings like I've been burnt. So, for girls like you, accidentally hit with the curling tongue or the flat irons, and it passes. And it passes. But for me, I get it in my arms, and some of the time it'll be overly sensitive for a period, and the kids won't realize, and they'll go to hold my hand and I'll cry out. And that's not a nice thing for a parent to pull their hand away from their kid because the kid just wanted to hold their hand. Or I've had it where, like you say, getting the pain in your ear. But for me, and I'll squeal, and I might be in the kitchen making dinner, or God forbid, you're holding something and you suddenly get it, but it passes really quickly.
Yeah.
And there isn't much you can do. You just have to try and laugh past it.
Yeah. Yeah. And how old are your kids, by the way?
So they're 8 and 4.
So you don't want to shun a 4-year-old, do you?
No, it's not nice. And it's really hot. Yeah, it scares them because there's no visible cause for pain, especially for the 8-year-old. He'll look and go, well, what do you mean it's sore? That doesn't make sense to me. There's nothing there. It's not swollen. It's not bruised. So for them, the pain isn't real.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so, okay. I guess many people with MS, if not all, to a large extent, will have had something, big or small. I mean, you were talking to me, and I have the same fear as you, is that what if it never went away? What if it came and parked itself there? I know some people who say, yeah, they live in permanent pain, and essentially they learn to deal with it, which is, yeah, to an extent. But, frankly, I don't want to go through my life, with an untreated broken leg, the whole time.
Yeah. I think I went to a mindfulness course, and I hadn't really thought about it. It was a sustaining high performance course. And they did the whole mindfulness thing. And I very quickly became overwhelmed because I checked in with all aspects of my body, and the brain is a wonderful thing. And I realized that my brain blocks a lot of pain out. So a lot of my low level, and, most MS people probably have this, where your legs fizz, or you've got like that constant edge of pins and needles in hands and extremities or different bits. And the facilitator was like, oh, I'm really sorry. Do you live in chronic pain? I should have warned you. And I was like, I didn't realize I lived in chronic pain, but now I do.
Yeah. Thanks for shutting the gate. Now the horse is gone.
Yes. When something new hits, it's wondering, is this it? Is this what I'm going to live with? And there's the neuropathic pain that we talk about and that we get. But then there's also the muscle cramps and the pain that comes with them.
I'm sitting here now, and every time I sit here when I do a video, my left hamstring right here, it's just uncomfortable. I just live with it because I know that when we're done, I'll get up, I'll have a walk around, I'll stretch it.
And I think that's the thing, like you do it with, if you're in work. So for me, it's the palms of my hands and the soles of my feet. And I remember being in,
you mean?
Yes.
So what,
yeah.
I mean, do they want to cramp?
Yeah. And it's like I have stigmata. So I like to think that maybe there's something special about me. And
you could start a shrine back in Ireland, couldn't you? You're not in charge.
So like I'm sitting here and I stretch the palms of my hands. So I tend to do that a lot in meetings. So people always think that I fidget. but you can't really kick your shoes off and stretch your feet out. And I was sitting in a meeting and my calf went and the sole of my foot went, and it felt like my toes were trying to curl up behind. And pain meds are great for that. So, you know, you load up on the ibuprofen. For me, yes, they do help. But they have their own side effects. And quite often there isn't much help for that, or you max out on what you can take yourself or what the doctors can prescribe. And, you know, that gets challenging. So for me, muscle spasms, exercise. So I take my baclofen, gabapentin, you've got your ibuprofen, they all help, but they all have side effects. And the more tablets you add in, the more side effects you get, and the more people want to give you more tablets to help with the side effects of the other tablets.
Somebody new wants to just stick something on top. Just it's polypharmacy, you know, all these different drugs, you know, and then you get one to treat the other one. And you sort of think, where's these drugs? You know, what about my bloody pain? I know a friend on gabapentin, and what was the other one you mentioned? Baclofen. She's just wound it all back because she said she was gaining weight. And all of a sudden she's going, wow, I don't need, you know, but it was her taking the initiative. And I think this is the important thing we're touching on, Rachel. I would like to think, and I'm not so naive to think that, you know, this is there, but I would like to think that the healthcare professionals would take a more holistic view of me. Never have I been asked, and never has anyone done a drug review.
So I think that's the really important bit. So I asked for a drug review. So I also have another chronic condition, because I love just collecting chronic autoimmune conditions. And so my prof was really good, and we sat down and we went through them all to see if maybe the fatigue that we chalked up to multiple relapses could actually be a drug interaction, or just something not being needed anymore. And I think with being relapsing remitting, you are going to get better, hopefully, at some point. So you might not need all those meds. So we went through everything and we ruled out the other medication for the other chronic condition. And he was like, okay, well, you know, start pulling back on the GABA, but you got to take it out really slow. So took the gabapentin out and wind it right back. And it took a couple of months. It felt amazing. And I was just like honestly, like the sound of music, skipping through fields, having a brilliant life. And I was like, this is amazing. So I didn't need the gabapentin anymore. I tried to take the baclofen out, and I was like a kid on a Saturday morning trying to pick a scab off. And I was like, oh no, that one's not ready yet. Put the baclofen back in. Need to keep it there. Because
that's such a great analogy. I never thought of that. All I can hear now is leave it alone.
Yeah. Not ready. So I put it back in, and so it was really nice, and it was really good to feel empowered to have that conversation, to say,
so it's I think that, isn't it? You're doing something and you are taking control or charge of things. And I think you made the magic word there, you know, you're doing something.
Yeah, and it is great having those chats, and when your professionals are open to it. I know, like back in the early days when I first started, I was given amitriptyline and I just couldn't cope. It was, I couldn't function. And yeah, I had that conversation with the MS nurse team, and I was like, I can't be a mum because I can't wake up in the morning. So I'd rather be in pain and be a mum than be this zombie. So we've managed to find a way that works, and the gabapentin's still out. I'll probably recover from the current relapse before I try the baclofen again. But my aim is to try and get back to not taking pain meds.
It's becoming more prevalent now. People are getting prescribed medical marijuana, you know, but you still have to do it all privately. And, you know, where I'm from, Canada, it's legal in many states in the US, it's legal. And you know, for some people that does it. And to me, I think it's sort of being, frankly, slightly stoned, you know, it's a bit like being slightly pissed. You care less about things. But if that's what you need and that's what works for you and you've got chronic pain, I mean, you were mentioning to me, you know, when the pain becomes chronic, and I think people need to know this, there's other options beyond your MS team that you may need to start twisting arms and kicking backsides to access in the NHS. Can you talk about them a bit?
Yeah, so I think when you hit that chronic bit, it can be quite easy for people to go, oh, the meds aren't working for you. Ah, well, life's a bit tough. I I think that is when you need to ask for referral to a pain specialist, to a palliative care nurse or team, and speak to someone that has the experience. And medical marijuana, yeah, it might not be right for everybody, but it is there and it has been licensed for use in MS. And I think that as a community, we need to start to be more supportive of that. Well, but try and push those. So for me, it's like, if you don't suit codeine-based medicine, if it doesn't agree with you, whether that's because it makes you so constipated that you can't function, or
there's all the fun side effects.
I mean, thankfully I don't have continence issues yet, but it's not fair to the people that do, that they're just left with no plan, that there's no holistic plan to treat their pain.
I think
you need to try
there. Plan. I would be pressing. I mean, yeah, I'm healthy and I've had it for 28 years or whatever, but I would now be saying, let's have a plan. Let's make it together. I want to be part of this. You're right. I think if you just touch in with them and they see you as somebody who rings up when you're complaining because something hurts or whatever, as opposed to, it shouldn't be like this, but I think it is. You need to take control and say, right, folks, let's make a plan. Because also my nurse, I was talking to them about this before we had this call, and they said there's pain management teams, but sometimes the palliative people, it wasn't their words, it was the words of another person I know, but he said their job is to keep them high till they die. And that's perfectly fair. Their view is nobody gets a medal for suffering. So why should you, if you've got some terminal illness, suffer? But MS isn't terminal like that. So some of the pain people, some of the pain teams, I think even they need to be sort of said, look, this is neuropathic. We're trying to treat something which I wouldn't say it doesn't exist, but it doesn't manifest itself in that's because I broke my arm or because I have cancer or because of this. It's just my brain deciding to mess me around.
Yeah. And I think it's got to be looked at as an overall plan for how someone is going to live. Because if you are living in chronic pain, it's hard to work because it's hard to concentrate and people don't like you very much because you tend to be a bit prickly. Understandably, if you're in a lot of pain.
Even if you're keeping it to a minimum, they're like, oh God, they're always on about their bloody hands or feet or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I've done a lot in my work, is that I am overly cheery to compensate. It is a deliberate choice to be this smiley and this optimistic, because it's not nice to hear that someone's in pain all the time, and it can be tough to respond appropriately to things. But also, if you're in pain, you don't move. So if I'm in chronic pain in my back or in my legs or in my feet, I'm not going to move. So I'm not going to exercise, which means I'm not going to stay strong, which means I'm going to need more help, which means I'm going to need more social care, which means you're going to spend more money on me. Yeah. I had two bits on that. With the last relapse, it was my legs. So the foam roller of death lives in our living room. And it's so horrible. It's so horrible. But you feel so much better after.
I was going to say, so satisfying. It's this perverse pain, isn't it? It's like, oh, that hurts. Oh, I'm better.
But on the other side of that, optic neuritis, when you get cramp in your eyeball and you're like frantically trying to massage this one tiny little muscle that you can't quite reach, to just go, just relax and let it go. Just let it go. And it's really tough. But then it's also, so the funny story I was going to say was, I really struggle when I get tired. I don't pick my feet up, so I shuffle my feet. And it's like that when I get up in the morning, and it takes me a while to get going. But I was walking along behind my mum, shuffling my feet, and she just snapped. She was like, God's sake, would you pick your feet up? And I was like, I can't. And she was just like, oh yeah, you can't. Sorry. I feel bad for that.
I remember my daughter when she was growing up. It's like, pick your bloody feet up. I'm not made of money. I can't buy new shoes every 5 seconds. I think that's an inbuilt parental thing, isn't it? Yeah. It's like, hey, stop dragging your feet.
Yeah.
But thankfully, she's all healthy. But yeah, and that I was somebody else who was saying, it's kind of infantilizing, isn't it, MS? You are reverting back. It was when we were talking about continence issues, you're suddenly reverting back to some of this almost childlike stuff that you can't control. I mean, you and I are not really suffering from bladder and bowel issues. And, but imagine it's just the not being able to control it. And the pain, the same thing. It's uncontrollable. You didn't break your leg being an idiot on your bicycle or fall off climbing. I mean, it's just, it comes. It's like, oh, here's a free gift.
Yeah. So we were talking about this the other night, my husband and I, and the most frustrating relapse I've had was when I lost my voice. So I ended up with a really bad stutter, and it was sort of in second lockdown. So we were homeschooling and everything was fraying at the seams. And I've then got a comedy cartoon level stutter, and it takes me 10 minutes to get a sentence out. And it was just the worst time to try and cope with something like that. But when I lost my voice, I also had throat spasms, and you can't massage that out. And I would not be able to breathe. And that is terrifying. And thankfully, it didn't come with pain, but just,
what a bonus.
There's no air.
You feel like you're suffocating with no pain. Hey ho.
And thankfully, it would only last a few seconds and then it would stop. But I think when it comes to the pain, the fear of living in pain or it not going away is a really challenging mental position to be in. And one of the things that I'm trying really hard is to look after my mental health, because I can see how chronic pain or a chronic condition that for a lot of folks there isn't a lot of hope, because they don't have access to great neuros, or they don't have a neuro that agrees with some of the most effective treatments. And the thought of not recovering from a relapse, which I think most of us with relapsing remitting know at some point there's going to be a relapse that we don't recover from.
That's what terrifies me. I'm a bit lucky, but I always say, is tomorrow the day when I wake up and I can't feel my legs? And I like you, I lost my voice. And again, being shy and retiring like you and not, really enjoying talking much. But it was mid-lecture in Tel Aviv. I was giving a lecture to this group of people, and it just went, there was no stuttering. It was, but the overall point was, you think, am I condemned to this now? It would come on, and I'd sort of wave my hand. I was having educated people around me, my parents, we thought it was hilarious because I can't talk. And, you must be really suffering. What's it like not to talk? But it's like, you buggers, go away. But it was, and then we just go. And it might last 5 seconds or it might last a minute. But you don't know if this is now set the path for the rest of your life, and you're fumbling with your pad and paper. So you just want to almost feel like you need something saying, it'll pass, to put it up. But what if it gets worse and da, 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 da. Yeah. So it's that mental thing. So apart from mindfulness, which obviously wasn't your favorite pastime, you said mental health. What do you like to do to try and get on top of it?
So for me, it's just being optimistic. It's very dark humor, and the gallows humor and the making fun of it. And that can be tough for other people. Personally, I find it hilarious. But we try to keep it funny. We try to be optimistic. As a family, we just roll with the punches and drink coffee until it's time to drink wine. But
is there a very short segue from one to the other?
Yeah.
just checking.
I can't drink as much as I used to. So we always make the jokes about being Irish and having an extra liver, but I can't drink anywhere as much as I used to. So it's the same as you. It's 1 or 2 glasses of wine.
Oh, I think you're down to 1 or 2 bottles. But
No. But it's more the drinking coffee like it's water. And I do remember saying to my neuro once that I knew exactly when I was getting better because I got the coffee jitters. I was like, oh, the coffee's working.
Yeah, you can tell. In amongst everything else, you can tell. So thanks so much for coming on the MS Guide. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dom. It's been brilliant.
All right. Take care.